What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Decide and Design. This week's topic is one that I am probably the most passionate about, and I'm so excited to share this information with you because I think it's probably changed my outlook on life more than anything else has. And so for those of you who don't know who Bronnie Ware is, she's an author, and she wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And basically the story behind it, I don't want to give the whole book away, even though that's kind of, I guess I am kind of giving the book away, but if you read the book, she goes kind of deeper into how she wrote this book, and it's just super impactful and changes your whole outlook. So even though I'm gonna kind of give a spoiler on it in this podcast, I still recommend you read it over and over and over again because I never get sick of it, and it completely changed my outlook. But basically the story behind it is she was a nurse in Australia, and she worked with patients who had 3 months or less to live, I believe. And she started to gather all of their stories, and she started to see patterns about all of their regrets that they had in their life. And so she wrote this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I wanted to just run through the 5 regrets and then just give my perspective and take on them, but then also just dive a little bit deeper into them. But please check that book out. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's free on YouTube or anything like that, or maybe Audible or something, but either way it can't be very expensive, and I highly recommend it. But anyways, I'm going to jump right into it. The first regret is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. This one, I believe, is the hardest one to work through out of the 5. And the reason being is because it just involves other people influencing you. So I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. We are so heavily influenced on, one, society and social media for today's generation, but 2, just our friends and our family. And a lot of times our friends and our family want to choose what we do for us. They want to tell us how to live our life. And I don't want it to sound like screw what your friends say, screw what your family says. It's not about that. It's more about you have to be the leader of your own life. This is your life, and you have to be the one to make decisions. Our friends and our family mean it with love, because they want to protect us. They don't want to see us go through pain and make mistakes. But the problem with that is that's what helps us grow. Humans do not grow without pain and without challenge. So we have to let our children and we have to let our friends make decisions on their own and learn from them. We can motivate, we can share our perspective, we can inspire, we can ask questions to guide them into a different direction, maybe. But at the end of the day, you have to make your own decision. And you have to take the feedback that comes with that, because that's the only way that we're going to learn. It's the only way that we're going to grow. One thing that we all have in common, and this is a little bit dark, but we're all going to leave this earth, and we're all going to die. ask yourself, what do you want to do with your life? How do you want to be remembered? That's the most important question that you can ask yourself. The second regret is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And this one is a little bit tricky because I believe that hard work is important. And there's a lot of bullshit being thrown around the internet right now where it's like work less and make more money, and like everyone wants like kind of like that quick fix, and everyone wants to get rich quick, and I don't know, it's just all this stuff on the social media and the internet that like you can make all this money in a month or whatever. And I don't know, there's just a lot of like fluff stuff on the internet, and I just don't agree with it. And I guess it works. I guess it's easier to make money than it ever has been because we have the internet, but I don't want anyone to think that like shit's just going to be easy and life is just easy and you don't have to work hard. Like, we have to work hard. Life is hard, and you have to work in all aspects. You have to work on your relationship. You have to work for your goals. You have to work at your job, your passions, everything. Like, everything is hard. Like, we have to work. But I wanted to tell this story because I think this is where people get caught. I was listening to a podcast recently, and this comedian was telling this story. And it's kind of interesting because comedians don't usually dive deep like this. But basically he was saying he was on a plane and he was waiting to see if he was going to, I guess he like pitched a show, and he was waiting to see if this TV network was going to choose his show. And he's on the plane, he's waiting for the text, and he said as soon as the plane was about to take off, he got a text that came through, and it said, "Sorry, they chose the other show, they're not going to use yours." And he said the plane took off, and his head hit the back of the chair, and he just stared at the ceiling for like 2 hours and was just completely crushed, heartbroken. And when he got home, he went to his daughter's bedroom, and I think she was like 3 or 4 years old, and he goes in there and he's like kind of crying, and he's like, "Sweetie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And she looks up at him like all confused, and she said, "Dad, why are you sorry?" And he's like, "Because I didn't get that TV show. Remember that TV show I was talking about that we needed to get for our family? Like, I didn't get it." And he's like, I'm so sorry." And she was young, and I don't think she could really understand what he was trying to say, but she looked up at him and said, "Can we go to the park tomorrow? Are you still able to take me to the park tomorrow?" And he looked at her all confused, and he was like, of course, like, why wouldn't I be able to take you to the park tomorrow? And I thought that was such a powerful, beautiful message, because he's like, I realized that what matters most is family, the people in our life, our relationships. And the key word is people. The people in our life matter most. Not what we have, not necessarily the materialistic things that we're striving for, but it's the relationships. Like, love at the end of the day is the answer. And I just thought that was a beautiful message. But people get caught with making their work their entire life. And I think sometimes we just need to take a step back and enjoy the people around us. So I think that's really the message, is I wish I hadn't worked so hard. The third regret is I wish I'd had the courage to express myself. And this one hit home for me because this has been the biggest lesson for me the past month. So a couple years ago, I had a friend who passed away. And still to this day, my biggest regret in my entire life was not expressing how I felt towards him, and not, yeah, that's it. Just not sharing how I felt about him and how much I loved our friendship and loved him. And when he was gone, that ate me up inside. It ate me up inside. So recently, I had a friend reach out to me, and she was like, she said, I know you've been going through some stuff right now, but I wish I was about to reach out the other day and I didn't. And I regret that. And I remember reading that text and being like, okay, this person really needs me to tell them the truth. So I told this friend about the story of my friend passing and how much I regretted it. And I was like, you need to listen to your intuition. You need to have the courage to express yourself, because at the end of the day, expressing yourself is really just sharing your perspective and sharing your side of the story, or your story in general, and it can change somebody's life. It really can. So I told her that. I was like, you need to trust your intuition, and when you feel like you need to express something, you need to do it, no matter what, even if you're afraid. And I told her that, and she reached back out probably a week later, and she was crying, and she was like, Brandon, I took what you said to heart, and I gave this person some money because they needed it more than I did, and I was afraid to offer this money to them, and I was afraid to express myself to them and tell them the truth, but I did it anyways because of what you said to me. And that just really spoke to my heart. And like she told me, she was like, this person was so grateful, and like I changed their life. So the lesson that I've learned is like, we have to express our truth. We have to express and acknowledge our intuition. And it's not about whether the person is gonna do something with that information. It's just about you sharing your perspective. And I think we will always regret not speaking and expressing how we truly feel. The fourth regret was, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And this is another one that is a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit tricky, because we have to be very careful who we spend our time with. There's that old quote where it's like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And that is something that I've dealt with in the past. I have been caught up in I don't want to say bad groups of people, just rooms that I didn't really truly belong in. And it hurt me. It really, if you have 5 friends who smoke, you're going to be the 6th. That's basically how this works. And you can see that in so many different areas of life. Like if you start paying attention to different groups of people, you're gonna see why this is like important, and why you're just gonna see how this like unfolds. So although we have to be careful who we choose to spend our time with, I think it's important that we acknowledge that like we're gonna grow apart from the people that we grew up with. But like for me, I've grown apart from some of my friends who I've known since I was like 3 years old, and we've always told each other like we're never gonna not be in touch. We're never gonna stop loving each other and, you know, sharing experiences and staying in contact, basically. And we do. It's just like I'm in a different place in my life right now, and they're doing their things as well, and that's okay. And we have to respect that, but I think it's important that no matter where we go, we always come back to home and we always reconnect with each other. And the last one is the last one's a very important one. It's, I wish I let myself be happier. And this is one that hits home for me because doing this podcast and joining the team that I work for and just doing all this creative work, it's very easy to get impatient, and it's very easy to have like imposter syndrome and feel like you don't belong in this space, and like, who the hell cares what I have to say, and like all these stories that you make up in your head. And I think a lot of our lives are just like loud. Everything's loud around us, and it's just, I think a lot of us just feel overwhelmed. And when you think with the end in mind, and you start thinking about like, what do I want to be thinking when I'm on my deathbed? I think that allows us to not get so worked up over the little things. You have to love the game more than the trophy. I think that's the message. You have to love what you do more than the things that you're going to get. Who you become in this life is far more important than the things that you're going to get. And I kind of want to end with that. It's like, who you become is more important than what you're going to get. Be present day to day, and don't get so worked up over the little things that stress us out every single day. It's like, take a step back, realize what you do have. That's a big one for me. And just be happy with where you're at. Be happy with where you're at. Find the greatness in every day. I know that this episode was a little bit of a heavy one, and I don't know. I know it can like be hard to hear some of the things that I'm talking about, and it's hard to think about dying, and it's hard to not get like overwhelmed with everything that's going around us. But if you read this book and you really start to break down every single regret and you start applying it to your life is going to change. I can promise you that. I hope that you guys took something from this episode, and if any of you want to connect and need advice or just want to like mastermind together, you can message me on Instagram. It's B_LOWE22, B_low22. I appreciate all of you for listening to my podcast. I know they're like, I just wanted to say this. I know like my podcasts are like very short and they're kind of like to the point, but I want it to be a podcast that you can just throw on before work. You can get a little bit motivated and inspired before your day, and it's right to the point. I'm trying to make it like under a half hour every single podcast, aside from having guests, which I think I'm going to do soon. But But yeah, I want you guys to be able to just listen to this, take something from it, and apply it every single day. And that's my goal. I want to help as many people as possible. I want to spread love. I want to inspire, motivate, and I want all of us to design a life around our purpose, design a life around who we want to be, who we truly want to be in the world, not what everyone wants us to be and not what society wants you to be. I want us to choose and design how we're going to live our life. And that's the message of this podcast. And that's how I want to serve the world. So thank you for whoever's listening to this. Thank you so much for showing up and listening. And I hope you took something from it. And I will catch you guys next week on the next one.